Hey, this is Flo, and this is the third part of our 30-day weather app challenge. In the first part, we discussed the introduction. In the second part, we started working on the design. And now in this third part, we will continue working on the design, improving on it, and refactoring it a bit so we can then actually use it during the implementation of the API and finishing up the app in general. So the first thing that I want to do is actually grab everything that we made and put it in a separate view. For that, I will grab this whole VStack here, this whole foreground layer, copy it, and remove it. And now what I will do is I create a new group called views, then create a new SwiftUI view in there, and just call it city overview. Hit create. Now just paste everything in the body here. Okay. What we then can do now here is just add a city overview to our content view, and if we resume the canvas, then it should look exactly the same. Now what this allows us to do is to actually implement a way to switch between cities. So let's remove the city overview again and instead add a tab view, and then add a couple of city overviews in here. Let's say 3 for now. Give this tab view a style, being the page tab view style, with index display mode always, meaning that the 3 dots in the bottom will always be displayed. Now, since our background is very light, you can barely even see the dots, but I think that's fine. But what this allows us to do now is to switch between different cities. Okay. And of course, you can still scroll here in the in the hourly prediction section. Okay. Good. So next up, what we're going to do is refactor all of this a bit. First thing is removing all of the hard-coded values. So this New York should be a city. So we can add a state, city, state, city of type string. What else do we need? State var time, also a string. So basically, instead of this thing, we want the time. The next, what else? Yeah, I think this should be good for now, and the rest we can then refactor when we're doing the API call, because everything else will just be in some object. Now the preview obviously doesn't work because we need to provide some arguments for city and time. So for city, let's put in New York again, and for time, let's put in 12:45 p.m. again. So this will work. Now we can grab this, go to our content view, and paste it in here as well. Okay. Now the preview will work again, but now we've made it a bit more modular by being able to provide a city. Okay, updating took a bit longer, but that's no issue. Let's continue by creating a new group. Let's call this one view models, and just create a content view model. So we can store the cities that we want. So let's say content view model with SwiftUI for that. Let's just create the class for now. Content view model, make it an observable object. Okay. And what this now needs is basically a published list of cities. They should be of type city, which we have to define obviously. And actually, let's initialize this with an empty array. Next up, we have to define this type city. So create another group, models, another new file called city. And this will just be a struct city with, let's give it a name, of course, of type string. And let's also give it latitude and longitude. So coordinates, let's make these double. Okay, now this should work. Now what we can do actually is create a static placeholder variable here. Static var placeholder be an array of type city, and we can just fill this with some dummy data. That and long does not matter for now. Let's say New York, let's say Washington, Washington DC, and let's also say San Francisco. Okay. And now what we can do here is write an initializer for this class. In this initializer we will just do the following: city equals city dot placeholder, and now we initialize this variable with these dummy cities. Okay. And just for testing purposes for now, what we can do now is go back into our content view, give this a state object, var model equal content view model, like this. And now we can actually remove all of this code and put in a for each and say model.cities city in, and then we can put in a city overview with that city's name, and we will think about how we get the type later on. Now this does not work because city has to be identifiable. So let's make it identifiable by conforming to the protocol and then adding an ID. So let ID equals UUID. Okay. Now this should also work. Let's build it again. Let's update the preview. Let's run. So you see the first screen is New York, second one Washington DC, and third one San Francisco. So we've now filled this with some dummy data. What I think we should also do is at the end of the list, if you scroll once more, there should be the option to add a new city. So what you could do, for example, is put in a city name, like make a small form. But we'll think about that in a later episode. For now, we will get back to our city overview. Okay, so let's close up all of these other files. Next thing that we're going to do is regarding the value description stack. Where did we define this one? Okay, so first of all, let's move this into our views group and also the hourly box into our views group. Now the value description stack, if you remember, let's resume the preview so you can see it. It's just an icon, some bold text and some small text. So basically what we need is 3 variables here. Icon, the next one should be bold text, and the last one should be description. Now what we can do is replace this house here with the icon string, replace this 42% with the bold text string, and replace the precipitation with the description string. Now of course we need to pass these into our preview provider. So let's say icon is cloud, for example. Let's say bold text is again 42%, and let's say description is again precipitation. Now we should be able to resume the preview. Well, actually not, because we also need to add these arguments here in the city overview. So I'll just actually copy this line from the previews, and we will think about the actual data later on. Okay, let's resume. Okay, so this is just an Xcode issue. Maybe we need to build. Okay, so the build works, but we have some errors for some reason. So let's just ignore these. Or let me actually restart Xcode and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I restarted Xcode and now syntax highlighting works again. So let's resume the preview. Well, while it's loading, we can actually continue refactoring all of this. So let's grab this top VStack and call it a header and create a private computed variable for that. So private var header of type some view will be all of this. Then let's call this a daily forecast. Just grab everything out of the body and make it its own variable, so we have a bit better of an overview. Let's call this current weather. Create another private variable named the same, current weather, which just contains all of this. And then let's grab the information box, something like that. And like this. And now the preview should work. Okay, so now the preview works again. Let's make it a bit smaller actually. Okay. So let's think about what to do next. I think design-wise, we've got most of it done. I have the design open here. The last thing that we need is this next 7 days button to have the future weather. I think I'll make it a bit different than this screen. So let's get started with that. Let's create another view. SwiftUI view. Let's call it next 7 days view. Okay, and then in the city overview we had this thing here. We can actually change this to a navigation link with destination of next 7 days view and put this back in there. Now this link will not work because we need to wrap everything in a navigation view. So we should go back to our content view and wrap this the city overview in a navigation view. Actually, let's wrap the whole tab view in a navigation view. And let's also say navigation bar hidden true, because we don't need a navigation bar. But we don't have to apply this to the navigation view, we have to apply this to a child of it, so to the tab view. In this way, we can now navigate using this button, but the navigation bar will not be shown here. We can show it over here if we want to, or we can also hide it over here, however we prefer. Now the next thing we need to do is we make this text black again. So let's get back to the city overview, and let's just give this a foreground color of primary, and that will make it black again. Okay, good. So now let's go to the next 7 days view. Let's think about the design. So we will already have the colored background because that's from our content view here. So we can just start with a simple VStack with some spacing. At the top we should have the city name. Again, we will refactor this at the end, and we will also make this a bit bigger, so maybe let's say title, and give this a font weight of semi-bold. Okay. Yeah, looks good for now. And then we will actually wrap this in, and we will actually put something above it. So let's put an H stack here, because we want a back button as well. So let's put in a button with some action. We will take a look at this action in just a second, and in here I will actually put another H stack with an image of system name chevron.left with an E, and then a text back, and then below the button I also need a spacer to push it to the left. Okay, then let's give this H stack some padding, just so it's not that close to the edge, and let's also give this button a foreground color of primary. Good. So let's actually implement this dismiss action here. So what we need for that is we can grab the presentation mode from the environment. So environment key path is presentation mode var presentation mode. What we can now do is do presentation mode dot wrap value dot dismiss. And what this does is it just dismisses the current view. So now let's grab this whole H stack, copy it, and once again, as always, make it a private variable. Let's say navigation bar, put it in here, and then let's put the navigation bar back in there. And now we can actually test it. So let's go to the content view, hit resume, hit play. We can tap on next 7 days, and we can tap on back. For some reason it does not work. Okay, so let's find out why. And also we need to remove that top the action navigation bar. So navigation bar hidden needs to be true as well. Okay, so I've actually ran on a simulator now. I've paused the recording because that usually takes quite a bit to start a simulator up. And as you can see, this button works. The back button also works. It was apparently just a preview issue. Now a couple of things that you notice. First of all, our background color is missing because we are inside of the navigation view and the tab view. So we need to work on that. And this obviously needs to be at the top of the screen. So let's close the simulator. Let's think about the next 7 days view. And the easy fix is just put in a spacer here, and everything will be sent to the top. Okay, so below this I want to have some VStack. Let me think for a second. Maybe this whole thing should be a scroll view. So let's replace this VStack with a scroll view, because we can't guarantee that everything will fit on the screen. Let's give this some spacing, and let's also give this our standard look, basically which we had for this center information box. So let's grab everything from here, next 7 days view, and paste it all here onto the VStack. Now what we can just do the lazy way, add a background of color.purple.opacity 0.1. Okay, now we have the background again. This is just for now. We will fix this later on, of course. Because now obviously the edges have some issues with the coloring, but that's fine for now. And let's fill this with some placeholder, this VStack. So let's just create an H stack. let's say there should be the date on the left, then a spacer, then an image representing the weather for that day, and then the text with, let's actually make this a V stack, with the highest temperature, so let's say 15 degrees, and let's say -2 degrees as the lowest temperature, something like this. I think that's not too bad. Let's actually straight up get this HStack, paste it in a couple of times just to see how it looks. Okay, I think that's fine. Okay, so let's remove all of these again. Let's make this text a bit bigger, so let's say title 3, so just a bit bigger than the standard text, and let's also make it a bit bolder, so let's say semi-bold. Okay, let's also make the high temperature a bit bolder, so let's just copy the semi-bold modifier here, apply it to the high temperature. I also like to have blank lines between all of my elements. Okay, and then we will care about the sizing of this image once we actually have some icons for it. But this should be good, so let's grab this whole HStack, extract it to its own view. So let's create a new SwiftUI view. Daily forecast view. Paste everything in here and just make it modular right from the start. So let's give this a date string. Let's give this an icon string. And let's give this some high temperature string and a low temperature string. Let's just copy it. Okay, so this will be the date string. This will be icon. This will be high. This will be low, and we actually don't need the preview because we already implemented the view. So now we can fill this here with a daily forecast view. Date, let's just say April 1st, icon, cloud, high, 15 degrees, low, -1 degree. And now we could add a couple of these. Just like this, hit resume. Then we will just have some placeholder, and I think this is fine for our app. Okay, so I think this should do it for this episode. Next episode we will fix some of the background issues and continue working on the design, and maybe in the 5th episode we will finally be able to add the API. So if you watched it until the end, thank you very much. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will keep the content coming. See you!